Fiona Baker. I work as a Beef Extension Officer for Agriculture Victoria, and today I'm talking about doing pasture assessments. So we do pasture assessments to give us a heads up and allow us to make some early decisions in the season. Key times of year to do those pasture assessments, particularly in late spring, so that we can assess the pasture species that are in that paddock to help us decide later on come autumn whether we need to do renovations, whether we've got a weed load, which might give us an opportunity to put summer fodder crops in to help manage that weed load. And it also gives us a chance to look at that pasture and decide whether we need to keep an eye on it for autumn. So when we do our autumn assessments, it gives us a chance to look at what sort of management decisions we need to make to better manage those pastures to allow clover growth to happen, because some clovers are annual and need a certain amount of bare space to get up and get going. And also if the ground cover is adequate or not. And if we have too many bare patches, we might think that we need to increase the density of that pasture, and it allows us to make those decisions nice and early. So to assess our pastures, one of the easiest ways is to use the quadrant method. We can throw the quadrant across the pasture randomly, usually at least 20 times across a large size pasture, which allows us to then assess different components of that pasture. So when we look down into the quadrant, we can take a look at ground cover, so how much material is covering that, so how much bare soil we can see versus coverage. We can also look at percentage of different species, so how much clover is in that quadrant versus how much grass is in there. Another thing we can look at is the different species that are actually there in terms of what type of grasses are there. Are there rye grasses, cocksfoots, phalaris? Are there the weed species like wintergrass or silvergrass, barley grass that we might want to get rid of out of the system as well? Another thing that we can assess as when we're looking at our pastures is how many kilograms of dry matter per hectare is in a paddock. So we can do that via the quadrant by looking at how tall that pasture is, or we can use a rising plate meter which assesses the height of the pasture but also takes into account the density of the pasture. So that can give us a very accurate method of telling us how much feed is available on the ground. Assessing your pastures in autumn, it's important to look for how much bare ground you've got, because that may allow you to decide whether you need to sow those pastures down through that autumn period. It allows you to make that decision nice and early as to what seed that you might need to be putting into your pastures. And it also allows you to look at the ground cover and how much trash is on the ground. You may need to crash graze those pastures in autumn to remove some of that material to allow space for the clovers to germinate. Well, I hope you did find this information valuable, and I do encourage you to go out and have a crack at assessing your own pastures.